right. Hi, y'all. Welcome to another episode. And more specifically, welcome to season 3. Okay, so I'm going to do my best this season to stay quite a bit more focused. I've had a little bit of problems with Scrappy and just with work and stuff. But I committed when I started this to Monday at 4 a.m. So God damn it, I'm going to... one more time, I'm focused on Monday at 4 a.m. Okay, so... welcome to this episode. I'm still like so fucking happy and appreciative and grateful to be here. And my wish and my goal and my mission is the same. Like I want to be here to make you laugh, right? I want to be entertaining. I want to help you with, just like laughter, of course, more importantly, a little bit of information that I can give you with like safety and security would be fucking awesome because I want everybody to be a survivor. I don't want anybody to be a victim in any way, right? So that's my goal. But more importantly, I want you guys to know that I'm here, right? I mentioned it in last season. I went to New York City. I had a lot of fun. Had way too many drinks, but it's fucking awesome. Re-enlisted. And I got a couple messages from someone I had never met before. And that person was really sad. And it warmed my heart that person was sad and asked for help. And I wouldn't say that I was the best help in the world, but I will do my best, right? So definitely keep that in mind. More importantly, I'm here for you. Okay. So in this episode, I want to talk about a knife company. I actually had a custom made knife made Tim, and it was fucking awesome. Tim Kell makes amazing knives. He's a Marine veteran. Anyway, I'll share his website, of course. And I was fucking excited. It was like, anyway, I loved it. It was beautiful. I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but it was a beautiful folding knife. I love folding knives. Anyway, I had it like custom made, paid a little bit more than I'm like used to spending on things for myself. And I'm kind of like cheap as fuck, actually. Anyway, I was really happy. I lost it within 2 days. Anyway, so one day I will go ahead and have another one custom made for me. But Tim Kell Knives, fucking awesome. And like I said, I'll share the link on my website. But he's fucking awesome. And his knives are fucking beautiful. Okay, so I want to talk about knives. And I want to talk about... it actually didn't even occur to me until last night when I was talking to 69 on the phone, which was so fucking awesome. Like our phone calls lately have been like 3 hours. Fucking awesome. Anyway, I hadn't realized actually until I talked to him that I had not talked about first date number 1. And it's so funny to me. Like I'm sure I mentioned on social media. I'm sure the story is going to sound familiar to like the two of you that follow me. But I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I never mentioned it. So yeah, so we all know the story. Of course, I'm not going to like bore everybody with the whole fucking story again. But I was like really sad, right? So I went on my first dating apps in July when my friend flew in. And the first person that I matched with was on Facebook dating. And Facebook dating for me has been like the least popular. Like Hinge for me has been like the most... I would say consistent matches of people that aren't fucking crazy, but Tinder is just hands down my favorite. But of course, as you all know, I'm no longer on them because I'm focusing on 68, 69 and see what happens, right? Or when nothing happens, fuck it, I need a break anyway. Okay, so Tim Kell Knives, right? First date number 1. And fuck it, here we go. Okay, so met him on Facebook dating, as I said before, right? He was my type, like, physically, he works out. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail what his profession was because we live in a small community. He lives really close to me, so people may know who he is, so I don't want to do that. But he was physically in shape, my type, right? Wonderful beard, which I fucking love beards. Actually just fucking shared a meme about it. Fucking love beards, right? So, and he was my type and he was funny, right? And so, of course we met on the app, we did like a few messages. Sense of humors were in line, not identical. And I didn't want to be like my 100% self at that point because it's like my first date. So I was more like 68% me. And it was really funny actually because even at 68% me, I felt like it was a little too much, like my sense of humor was too much for him. So I kind of like censored myself and edited myself. And honestly, that may have been the problem. But anyway, so we got along really well. As I said, I wasn't my full self, which I have learned that lesson now. And now I'm like way too much of myself. But anyway, so we went ahead and decided to meet to go hiking, right? So this was kind of like COVID time, right? So we were both like, fuck it, let's go outside, whatever, right? See what happens. So I showed up with like a really light backpack. I want to talk about EDC kits pretty soon anyway, but it's like just everyday carry kit anyway. So I had like a pretty light backpack. I love fucking Osprey. Anyway, so I had like a couple knives in there. I had some water, protein bars, the fucking little like phone charger, that's like powered up, the external one that, whatever. So for me, like my everyday carry stuff, right? So I had that in there. I had some water, whatever. And then, we showed up, and of course I had like my headphones and my music, because I'm like, what if this guy doesn't show up, right? Anyway, so he shows up. He looks just like I thought he was going to look, which is awesome, because I found out much later that some people do not look at all like they portray themselves to be. But so I was like pleasantly, pleased, right? Anyway, so he shows up. He's got the cool beard, whatever, and we decided to go about 6-7 miles, right? So it was fucking awesome. And it was a beautiful park, not too far from, where both of us live. Like I said, it's a small community, so I'm not going to go into it. But it was really cool. He lived like 2 fucking miles from me. So anyway, so we go on the hike. It's like a beautiful fucking day. It's like the end of July. So it's like hot as fuck, right? So I have water, of course, right? I go through my water, not quickly, but I'm always pretty like hydrated, which is probably too much fucking information, but so, which I think is a good healthy thing to do. I'm like to be fucking hydrated. So when I do have consume water and I am sweating, I consume more water. Of course I have to fucking pee, right? Cause I'm like fucking a normal person, right? Anyway, so we're going through like the 6-mile hike. It's not very vigorous, but it's kind of like a hot, humid day. So I'm like sweaty. I go through my water fairly quickly. And then I'm like, okay, so I've never met this guy before, right? And he's already, I could tell like in person, more liberal than I thought he was, which is not a horrible thing, but I'm definitely not. So I could tell that some of my jokes, because of course I think I'm fucking hilarious, but I could tell that some of my jokes, even at 68% me, were a little too much, but I was still having fun. It was still my first date. I was really welcome for like the distraction, right? Because as I said in last season, I don't know if I was necessarily fair to these people early on, like the early numbers, but I had fun and I don't regret it. And it's a fucking funny story now. Anyway, so we go through the hike or whatever. So like we're talking, conversation's good or whatever. I do notice a couple things though, right? So like he's wearing this like really expensive looking fucking watch. And I remember thinking, I don't typically get along with people that are very affluent. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's me or them or just a combination, but I don't like to profile people either, right? So I was just kind of like, made some observations, right? He definitely gets manicures, like his hands, his nails, fucking beautiful, like a lot more beautiful than mine. And I don't know what brand of hiking shoe he had, but I could tell it was like a really great hiking boot, right? Anyway, so I'm more of like a Merrell, whatever, it doesn't matter, like a Keen kind of. Anyway, so, but I didn't recognize his, which made me realize they're probably more expensive than I even know about, but whatever. So I made a couple of observations, but we had fun. I was being 68% me, went through my water, as I said, fucking hot date. So we're like laughing, talking, whatever, a fucking hot day, not date, but whatever. Definitely not what I meant to say, especially if he's fucking listening. But anyway, so I'm like, really hate to say this, but like I really need to go pee. And he's like, well, if we go like another mile and a half, on this trail, which I'm not going to disclose, he was like, there's like a porta potty, and then if we go a little bit further, there's like an actual restroom. And I was like, I get that, but like, why be uncomfortable, So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and excuse myself. There's some trees and bushes over there. Fucking army person. I didn't really think that a civilian, I guess, hate to use that word, but somebody who's non-military would think that was such a problem. But I found out later he did think it was a problem. At least I think this is what it was. So I went ahead and go, and I pee, and I come back, and I'm like, okay, great, whatever, so let's go. And his mood and his eye, like the light in his eye kind of changed, but I'm like, whatever. So I'm like, maybe he's hot. It's a hot day. Anyway, so we keep going, whatever. We're having some like conversations. And then, like I said, I always like a protein bar and shit. And he's like, can I have one? I'm like, sure. So I give him one of my protein bars, and he's like struggling to open the wrapper. It's just like one of those like fucking Premier proteins. Like, anyway, whatever. They're really fucking good. You get like 12 of them for $10, whatever. Anyway, so I always have like a few of them in my various bags. Anyway, so he was like struggling to open the wrapper, and I was like, hey, and I pulled out one of my knives, and I gave it to him. I was like, here, do you want, sometimes the plastic kind of sucks. It's hot, sweaty, whatever. So he looks at me and he's like, okay, he takes the knife, and then he it's just a fucking Gerber, by the way, Paraframe. And he like takes the knife and he gives it back to me, and he doesn't close it. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird knife etiquette. Then it occurred to me, he probably doesn't know how to close it, which I'm not judging people, but it's one of those things that I felt like this is the perfect story to talk about knives, because there's like a fucking little mechanism. You just push it to the side, fucking thing closes. Like, so I was like, okay, but I didn't want to be an asshole. But I'm pretty sure that it was like an awkward silence when I realized he just fucking handed it back to me, right? Anyway, so we go on about the hike. I still think, despite these two things, which I thought about last night and this morning to try to refresh my memory, I think this may be what happened. Okay, so we finished the hike, whatever, right? It was like a nice day. We're both kind of hungry and sweaty, whatever. So then he is like, hey, why don't we go to such and such place? And I'm like, hell yeah, it's like one of my favorite bar grills. It's really close to like where we both live. And I was like, that's awesome. I was like, I'm not going to disclose it for obvious reasons. So I was like, it's awesome. I was like, so I'm going to go ahead and shower first if you don't mind, because I feel pretty gross. And he's like, no, it's a good idea. I do too. And then we were like, okay, so why don't we meet at this place in like 45 minutes? And I'm like, perfect, right? So of course we had taken two separate, vehicles. Like I was in my Jeep, he was in his truck or whatever. So I'm like, bye, whatever. So we don't hug or anything because we're like sweaty and disgusting. And I don't think anything of it. And I'm like, okay, bye, see you like 45 or whatever. And he's like, okay, cool. So by the time I made it to my house, which is not very far by the fucking way, by the time I made it to my house, pulled in the driveway, pulled out my phone that was like in my pocket, I looked at it and I instantly got like a message from him, like on Facebook Messenger, because we had been doing Facebook dating, right? Which you can connect to Messenger, which whatever, whole nother story. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail what he said specifically because it doesn't matter, but my eyes focused on him. Like, how like you're fucking watching a cartoon or whatever, like my eyes fucking focused on him saying, you were too crude for my friends and family. And I was like, well, this motherfucker, right? So I was like, what? I didn't know how to take it. And it was like my first date. So I was like, wow, maybe I shouldn't date. Like I wasn't sad, like I wasn't going to see him again, but it made me like question my personality and my values and my moral and like who I was. And that later on pissed me off about him, but whatever. So I was just kind of like, wow, what do I say? So before I could reply, fucking blocked me. So I didn't get a chance to say anything, but whatever. So whatever. Things happen the way they're supposed to work out, right? So fuck it, whatever. So, okay, so that was the end of my first date, right? So I don't know if he thinks I'm too crude because I curse a lot, which of course, in the right situation, I can control it somewhat. I'm not perfect, but I'm also not a fucking like barbarian savage either, right? Like my mother raised me really well. So I can be polite and, I can be like professional and whatever. So I don't know where that came from unless he just assumed that I couldn't be, or it was the knife thing, or if it was just like I'm more than comfortable peeing behind a tree. I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work out and I was too crude. Okay, so speaking of crude, I do want to talk about knives, right? So I have disclosed before that I carry 3 knives, right? And it just started as like a routine, like a habit I got into, right? So I'm terrible with sunglasses. For some reason, I lose sunglasses like fucking like, I don't know why, but I always lose them. Knives, it's very rare when I lose them. So as of course I mentioned, one of Tim's knives, and I'm really sad that I lost it, and I will cherish the next one when I order it. But anyway, it's one of those things though that have stayed with me, this habit, this routine that I've come into, and I just want to share it, right? So not too long ago, I was actually looking for a fixed blade, right? And one of my friends was kind of like, why are you being so fucking like bougie with your knife? And I was just like, well, I want like a small fixed blade that I could put like, depending on what kind of clothes I was wearing, like leggings, sweatpants, actually something that I could wear like a fucking belt with, like at work or whatever, my uniform. I was like, I want something that's small, that's concealed, that nobody knows I have, and I want to carry it like on the lower part of my back, depending on the pants or what I'm wearing. Of course, I think that would be ideal, right? Like we all have that natural part of the back, like where the tramp stamp used to be, whatever, which fucking, by the way, I don't have. But anyway, I think it would be great to carry a knife there. Like if I just got in the habit of like a fixed blade, I think that'd be awesome, right? And I've always like had this fascination with knives because I think they're cool as shit. I love guns, but I'm in a state where I can't really have a gun. So, and I'm a recruiter, so I can't either at the moment. But but whatever. So we're talking about it. So I ended up finding a K-bar, which I can give you guys more detail about if you're interested, but I fucking love it. And it's really small and it's concealed and like fucking nobody ever knows I have it. And I love it because it's fixed, right? So heaven forbid I'm actually in a situation where I'm going to be in a close combat, like I would not even say combat per se, but if I'm going to be in a situation where I'm like overwhelmed, somebody fucking takes me down, and it's not a good date, but somebody takes me down and I'm like fearful for my life, it's a fucking knife, right? So I want to be able to slash and I want to be able to reach it quickly. And folding knives are my favorite, but I think a fixed blade can be fucking handy, right? Because when you think about safety, right, and you think about being a survivor and not a victim, it's all about fucking milliseconds, right? So anyway, so I did some research and I love the fixed blade that I have. Like I said, I can share with you if you guys are interested of what it is, and I love it. Anyway, so I have the one fixed blade in my back, and then I have two folding, right? So they're both Gerbers. I love Gerber because they're inexpensive and they last forever, and I've had both of these for fucking years, right? And I have a couple, like, you know, within my Jeep and a couple within my home, but for the most part, I'm like a Gerber girl, and the fucking K-bar, the fixed, the moment that I love. But the reason I want to talk about knives is because if you think about it, as I said before, as we all know with safety, it's like fucking milliseconds. If you don't know how to open your knife, if it's folding, right? And you don't know how to close it quickly, you feel like you might not be prepared in a situation if somebody's going to overtake you. Like, knives are awesome. Gloves, of course, guns are better, but knives are awesome. But if you don't know how to use it and you're trying to protect yourself with it, you're going to fucking like be injured, because if you don't know how to hold it, you know, properly, like wrapping your thumb around the fucking blade, somebody can take it from you and they can fucking stab you. So like, why give your attacker like your fucking weapon, right? So a couple of things that I want to talk about today, and I'll go into more detail the next few episodes about like knife safety, is for the most part, when you have a knife, right, and you're in a knife fight, it's not a fucking movie, right? So what you really want to think about more than anything else is where your feet are, because if somebody is slashing at you, and that's what you fucking want, you want to fucking slash, like you want to like fillet a fucking muscle, like you want to take your attacker down, right? Stabbing is nice, but you want to fucking slice, like, so there's like different femoral arteries, you know, which of course, you know, we're all smart people. We know where the arteries are in our body. One of my two favorite to focus on, in case heaven forbid I'm actually attacked, is like the femoral artery, like inside the fucking thigh. Because if you think about it, you're in a knife fight, you're trying to keep distance because you don't want to be stabbed or sliced, right? You don't want to be fucking filleted yourself, so you're keeping some distance, right? So that's why you're, you know, always like cognizant of your feet, which is why I think knife fighting, for the most part, from what I have seen and what I've learned, and I'd love to take a formal class soon, but just to learn more. But it's kind of similar to boxing, right? Like you want to keep your feet moving, because one good fucking slice from your attacker to you, especially to your hand, like you fucking lost, right? So it's all about, you know, your feet and your angles. That's why I think femoral artery, holy fuck, wouldn't that be a good place to slice somebody? But anyway, so all I really wanted to talk about today was welcome to season 3. Definitely appreciate all of your support and your help, right, with everything. And you guys make my fucking day all fucking day, and I love it. I want you guys to continue to think like a predator, right? Like, I don't want you guys necessarily to be like dangerous criminals per se, but I want you to be able to like protect yourself, protect your fans and family. Like, we live in a world that's just like full of like unexpected, ever-changing threats, right? And I feel like civilians, you know, if there's a quote, and I should have looked it up and I apologize, but there's a quote that I'm probably going to butcher a little bit, but I talked about it last night and it means a lot to me. If you think about it, like, our world is changing, right? There's like all these threats, right? We don't really know what's going to happen, which is why I want people to be prepared for the unexpected. But there's a quote that I love, and it's basically like, think about like an army of like trained civilians. Holy fuck, what a powerful weapon that would be, right? Anyway, think like a survivor, right? Be prepared for anything. I don't want you guys to like be dangerous and violent and whatever, but I want you to be like significantly safer. Okay, so I hope this all makes sense. If you have any questions, obviously you know where to find me, and bye.